Well, it looks like we're ready to go. And I'd like to welcome to our workshop this afternoon, Julia Tom, who is an international concert cellist who spent 23 years in Europe, both as a member of the Amsterdam's Concertgebouw Orchestra, sorry, and as a principal cellist of the Bremer Philharmoniker. And I'm going to stop right here just to ask if you've ever run into Carl Kleinstuber, tubist.
A tubist? No. I did get some tuba lessons from our tubist in our orchestra, but his name was not Karl Kleinstuber.
Yeah, he was the principal tubist in The Hague for
Oh,
25 years.
nice.
Anyway,
Lovely.
yeah, a good friend of mine.
Nice to hear.
So anyway, back to Julia. So in Germany, she got certified in Dispokinesis. And again, I'm not familiar with that term, so for you can help us pronounce it correctly.
Go into
It's
it.
a retraining technique for performance enhancement and injury prevention for musicians. Currently, she's an instructor of performance skills at the University of Toronto and a kinesiology PhD student also at the University of Toronto. Her goal is to bring research to musicians that will combine performance enhancement with preservation of health, starting with a focus on discokinesis techniques. I look forward to hearing from you, Julia, and learning from your insights and your passion and your expertise. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks for such a lovely introduction, Chris. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to go over to a slideshow that I prepared, but I understand that it's possible for you guys still to see me. We're going to not only get familiar with Dispokinesis. It's a terrible name. I've discussed with the people who have taught me and the people that were in my class with me, can we not come up with another name? But still scratching our heads over that. And as long as there's no consensus, Dispokinesis it is. Right, so I'm going to do an introduction to Dispokinesis. Just start by saying the exciting slide, no relevant financial information or conflicts of interest to disclose. My background, thank you, we've already covered that so kindly, Chris. I think maybe the most important thing I would want to say is simply that I find it really exciting to be talking to other people that are working at bridging these two worlds, right? For bridging the performing arts and that health/medicine/science area, or let's just call it kind of a knowledge-based approach to the body and musicians using the body well. There's a lot I'm hoping to cover in this workshop today. I did a dry run and I timed it. It seemed to fit. So I'm just going to start by talking a little bit about how I got started with this terribly titled thing, Dispokinesis, what questions brought me into it, what is the approach, my own belief that actually Dispokinesis is a bit of a paradigm shift in musicians' treatment, that draws in some things that other people have been talking about, but I think it draws it all together in a way that's pretty neat. Then looking just where did Dispokinesis come from? What are some of the basic principles before we dive into the workshop? And in the workshop, I want to go over just some exercises focused on first posture and next on fine motor exercises. And hopefully there'll be time at the end also for some good questions and answers. Well, you guys will provide the questions. I'll hope to provide some good answers. We'll see where it goes. Alrighty, so the questions that I had that got me looking and set down that path why I came upon Dispokinesis were, I think, questions that a lot of us musicians have. So the first one I'd have is like, is what I'm doing really the best way of going about things? You know, you learn to play and you start young usually, and you know, you have an auditory goal and you're taught, okay, you know, left hand, fingerboard, right hand, bow, you know, in the case of the cello. I'm looking for my pen and I'm looking for the ability to see you guys because I really like that. Apologies, one little second to work out this technique here. Yay, there you guys again. Second question I had was simply, can it be easier, right? And it's of course all connected with, is it possible to have my body hurt less after hours at the instrument? But after thinking for a while and examining, exploring, trying different things out, I started to get the sense actually that there are more fundamental questions at the heart of this whole search. And one question that just I never was hearing taught in my lessons was, what amount of effort is really necessary to be playing our instruments? What are we doing? What is making the string sound? How much effort do I really need to be putting in to make that happen? And then connected to that, what does it mean to use the body effectively and efficiently to achieve our musical goals? And so it's really with these two questions that I started my search and came upon Dispokinesis. So with Dispokinesis, I came upon it in the mid-2000s. I was living in Germany. I was doing a lot of playing. I'd started my first job with this Bremer Philharmoniker. I was playing solos. And things were kind of working, but it just always felt like I had no idea what I was doing, and I wanted to understand it better. And I heard from somebody that there was a teacher called Joachim Schiefer who was teaching this thing called Dispokinesis, and it was really great. So as one does, you call him up, can I come in? And with Joachim, I started to get some answers to these questions. It wasn't just, you should stretch, you should warm up, try different practice techniques. It was really focused on what are the mechanics of sound production? What is your body? Where is it at? How does it work? How can we bridge those two in the most effective way? And I got fascinated, and I started to take weekly lessons. And when Joachim told me that he was doing a teacher's training, I jumped at the chance, despite having to make a commute over from Amsterdam between a busy touring schedule. So I did this once a month for 3 years. It was a big program of not only the basic exercises of Dispokinesis, the retraining exercises, but courses in anatomy, in neurophysiology, neurology, and we had to, in our last year, learn and experience handling and manipulating all these different instruments, every instrument group in the Western instrumental family, including the bagpipes. That was fun. So I finished this training and I started to teach it alongside of my performing, and it was very rich experience. I got to work with colleagues, with trainees at the Concertgebouw Orchestra. I even had the chance to work with some guest musicians. There was one time the big Korean conductor, Myung-won Chung, he stopped by. He was having, as conductors have, shoulder problems that was causing him to cut rehearsal short. And I offered to show him just one exercise. And this is really patting myself very strongly on the shoulder, but on the back, but he stopped in the middle of the next rehearsal and he was like, Julia, it works. And that's a kind of golden experience that every teacher wants, right? But I mean, the fact is that it was an eye opener for me, and really excited to be able to share it with more people. There is unfortunately the problem that I'm the only English-speaking practitioner of Dispokinesis right now. So, at the end of this workshop, if there are any ideas about where it'd be possible for me to go with this, I would really appreciate all thoughts and comments there. Onwards, what is Dispokinesis? I'm a former English major, so I start with breaking down this word and this origin. So dispo is Latin. It comes from dispono, it means arrange. Greek kinesis means movement. So Dispokinesis is the arrangement of movement. And it's, in breaking it down that way, it's not so bad. It makes some sense. It is still a tongue twister, but it does get a little bit at the heart of what Dispokinesis is about. And it works through being a knowledge resource in first place. So it looks like I mentioned, into how the body works and how the instruments are set up. And then it has also the retraining tools that are in the form of different exercises focused on posture and on fine motor skill, or fine-tuned motion, as I've called it here. What I find to be a real paradigm shift here, Chris, this is something that came up also in your lecture that I saw in the PAMA training, which I really liked. It's a non-muscular focus. So not all control, all success hanging on contracting all the muscles and just making them stronger, but finding other ways actually of getting the types of control goals that we want to have at the instrument. So it has no strength training, it has no stretching, it doesn't even entail any conscious lengthening of parts of the body that tend to contract. It does not work in that way. The way it works instead is it has a focus on the senses and on the reflexes. And I think this is key. These both are areas, the whole sensory network in our body, despite it being intricately connected with motor control, with movement, with the production of movement, it's a vastly overlooked area for how we create motion. And getting away from that dialectic of muscular control, contraction, relaxation, and opening things up to bring in our senses and the ability of our senses to be able to calibrate in a very fine-tuned, nuanced way exactly what it is we're touching and how we respond to it, how we move it, I think opens up a whole new universe. So just gonna close a window for 1 second because I think my son is about to play soccer outside. Alrighty. Today with our exercises, like I mentioned before, we're gonna look at posture and fine-tune motion and about the possibilities with these exercises to get a sense of how we can more finely calibrate these goals in our body. Alrighty, so Chris, do you want to give a try at pronouncing this name? It's Dutch. I think Dutch is kind of one of the most unpronounceable languages in the world. So they call him Onk. I'll say it one time, Gerrit Onne van der Klashorst, otherwise known as Onk. He was a founder of Dispokinesis. He was Dutch, and he was a physiotherapist and musician. He started out his life as a gifted pianist and organist. He lost a finger in World War II, which ended his playing career. And so he just dedicated himself to studying musicians and working with musicians. And in his work, he decided that he wanted to start looking at the very beginning. So he wanted to focus on the body's natural mechanisms by starting with a focus at childhood development, starting with babies. And through this study, he developed about 40 exercises to start reintegrating these childhood developmental steps again. And he called these exercises very much of a German phenomenon from this era, Urgestalt. So Ur meaning original and Gestalt meaning form. And his basic philosophy was that a healthy technique for musicians is reliant upon there being a healthy posture, and that a healthy posture is open, it's easy, it's unstrained, and it's reflexive. So just in looking at this picture, we can start to get a sense of what Onk was talking about. So, we see here a toddler standing up, upright, bright face, energy, ready to move. And the question is, does this take effort, right? A toddler is able to do it. Does it take effort to straighten the spine and to stand up straight? And if a toddler can do it, what's the problem? Is it difficult? Why don't we all just feel as light as a feather? There is, of course, the problem. That's just, this is a fact of life. Gravity, it's all around us. We're all subjected to it all the time. And a toddler has found some way to get around gravity, but I'm just going to talk here about what happens when we don't find the way that that toddler has had to deal with gravity. And what we have is what I like to call the cow muscles, these chronic overtime working muscles. And these are these muscles that are kind of making a girdle around our midsection. They are around the hips, the thighs, the pelvis, the lower back. And when they start gripping, then that tension spreads up the body through the trunk and into the rest of the torso, shoulders, et cetera, et cetera. And the question that Onk was asking is it possible for us to get from there back to this? Can we relearn what these toddlers seem to know instinctively? And that's what the whole series of these Orchestral exercises are designed to help us do. After doing these exercises for a while and working with people, and I've kind of distilled these exercises out to two basic solutions. And the first is that what you see the toddler doing there, it's what Onki called the postural reflex. That postural reflex is from the bottom up, according to Onk. So we find support, balance, and activation for our whole body and for being able to stand upright against gravity. We find it all from the feet. Secondly, outside in. So after we have managed to find that supported, balanced activation for being upright, when we want to actually move, that initiation point and the steering for the movement should come from the outside in, from that precise point of contact with touch leading. And we're going to go through exercises that hopefully will make these things make a bit more sense. But bottom up, outside in. And when you have those two things in place, hopefully everything else inside can stay simply free and open. This is the ideal. And if you observe children know this instinctively. They're always standing up with balance over their feet and with curious fingertips. They want to touch everything, right? And there's a reason for that. These curious fingertips of children, this is something that we have unfortunately often come very far away from. We can observe it in the animal kingdom, bottom up, outside in. Animals, every motion, cats, it's with perfect balance over their feet and with those paws reaching out to touch their goal. And you see the immense grace, power, and precision that they're able to achieve with the combination of these two. It's a bit unfair, of course, but we see here with these players, simply what are the challenges that us musicians are facing and what happens when we don't have that bottom-up balance and that outside-in touch. So lacking that balance from below, you see, I'm gonna get out my horrible little laser pointer, but you see the kind of the contracting up through the torso into the shoulders, how one's off balance then through the entire upper body. One sees that the fingers, the hands, they're not able to touch. They're not able to have that outside in directing of motion and the tension that's a result. So these two things, they work together. There are, of course, wonderful examples of musicians who have been able to maintain bottom up, outside in, and have had long careers making music. Here is, I'm going to look up his name. I have this here somewhere. This is the Afro-Cuban All-Stars. I had the chance to see them actually in Germany in the 2000s. It was an amazing concert. Everybody on stage was between the ages of 80 and 90, I think, at that time. This guitarist here in the center, let me see if I can find, let me just go back a bit. Yes, is Compe Segundo. He performed in the Vatican City before Pope John Paul II, above the age of 90. And you see in how he sits, you see the utter ease of the posture. There's no effort, there's no strain, there's no conscious effort to be able to be sitting upright. And you see, as a result, also the ease at which the fingertips are able to just touch the strings of the guitar here and here. And for him, playing the guitar seems on just a purely motor and energetic level, it seems to just involve that. You sit, you touch your fingertips to the string, nothing more, nothing less. And if that's the case, then the question is, why not just keep playing to the age of 90 and beyond, right? Here's Alicia de la Rocha, a small Spanish pianist, smaller than me. I think she was under 5 foot or just 5 foot, who had a flourishing career with the largest piano repertoire out here. So there's Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto, Schumann Piano Concerto. You can see in how she's standing, she's not at the piano, but it's open, it's easy. She was able to continue an amazing concert career up until the age of 80 when she just chose to retire herself. So that's the interesting thing. I mean, often with in the music world, the point of departure for a lot of discussions of musicians is that of muscular strain. You hear so often, you know, it's an unnatural thing we're doing. Obviously, sitting for 3 hours in a pit, making the same motion, you're gonna hurt, obviously, right? But you see, there is the possibility there of people who are playing for decades and do not suffer from strain and injury. So can we capture any of these things that they're doing right, distill what that is, capture it for ourselves and start teaching it to other people? This is a question. All right, so now moving on to the exercises. So for the postural exercises, I'm going to go through 3 different exercises. The first orchestral exercise is designed to give these cow muscles a break. The second orchestral exercise is designed to start uncovering that postural reflex, starting in the feet. And we'll see if we can start getting a sense of the possibility of postural ease with these exercises. So for these exercises, it's necessary to have just some space on a floor to lie down, to be able to stretch the arms out to the side. One can see if one wants a cushion behind the head should feel like it's not tilting forwards or back. The neck should feel that it's free. And the first exercise just involves lying down with the legs long and doing nothing. Who's game for this? Who wants to give this a try? Do people have setups? Yeah, awesome. Please, great. Then I'll make sure that I can see you guys. And that's tiny, right? Maybe I can make my own thing a little bit smaller. I can end this for now. All righty.
We need to see you, Julia, when we're on the floor.
Well, if you can put the computer in such a way that you can see me, that's fine. If not, I'll talk you through it also.
Okay, talk would be good for me.
Good, awesome. I just have a picture up that can serve as a kind of guideline for where we are with these exercises, but you don't have to be looking at them. All right. Exercise 1A, lie down, do nothing. Revolutionary, huh? What is actually really important with this exercise is to do something that musicians is often very difficult to do. And that is namely to observe things with no judgment and without the desire and the inclination to change anything. So if you are lying down, hopefully you can start to just feel, okay, gravity is at work and I'm not offering any resistance to it, and start feeling how the body simply responds to that. And as musicians, we're so overconscious of every part of our body and how it's responding. And you might notice there are parts of my body that are a little bit tense and that are wanting to hold on and that can't just give in to gravity. And the real challenge then for this exercise is to see if you can not do anything, not try to stretch those tensions away. Don't try to position or hold your body differently to fix any problems. We're not fixing anything right now. And the way that Dispokinesis works that I also think is really quite interesting is we're trying to create just a different baseline. And we're trying to create a baseline where the body is responding rather than we're asking the body to do things. And we're going to be putting the body into different types of situations that hopefully might be triggering different responses that will be changing some patterns. But we're not going to actively try to change these patterns through muscular action and activity or force. So we're going to just see how does a body respond to this scenario of gravity wins. Yeah. Next part to this exercise, there is a bit of a goal. So, and the goal involves here, I'm going to, the goal, well, what we're going to do now, we're going to put our knees up. So the feet in a bit, the knees go up. There is a goal that's to find a balance point. Don't try to find that yet. Right now, I'm going to explain that a little bit. And also there's that goal of in finding the balance point that we can do that with the midsection, those cow muscles, chronic overtime working muscles, them staying free while we do this. And what does finding the balance point look like? Maybe we can start there. The kind of test that we can do for that is that it's possible for the knees to be falling out. Give this a try. This is something that's often very, very confronting for people, I think, with all the people that I've worked with. So if you just hold your knees up, actually kind of hip width apart, and you're not holding in these midsection muscles, see if you can feel that the knees, that they are allowed to fall out. And it's a challenge because these midsection muscles are so used to holding on often. And when they hold on, the knees stay up. They're directly linked. Those midsection muscles, they hold on for dear life. They think that they have to hold the lower body onto our upper bodies often. So see if you can even try like have your knees up and to give one knee just a little push and see if you can just flop, really like flop out. And you can try one knee at a time. And I'm gonna try to make you guys bigger. And if at any time you have any questions, want to ask me anything or want me to say something again, just let me know. You can also try to angle your screen such that I can see you and I can also then respond to what I see. Yeah.
Should our feet be together or no?
Sorry, say that again, Chris.
Should our feet be together?
No, your feet should be kind of, well, to begin with, just have them be kind of shoulder length apart and see if you're able to allow the knees to fall out. Yeah? Good. Say that again, Chris. You hurt your back when you do that?
My feet want to come together when I do that.
Yeah. All fine. Very good. And now what we're going to do is we're going to search for a point where the feet, a placement of the feet where the knees are not going to be flopping out, but not because we're holding them in the midsection. So I would recommend searching a bit wider, like a wider placement of the feet. But you know that sensation now of releasing the knees, releasing the midsection. See if you can keep that release. Find a different position of the feet with that release, but the knees are just not going to be falling out. Just not going to be falling out. They're not going to be falling in either.
Is it a feeling where you feel light?
Well, it should feel, no. You should feel that gravity is working at you, definitely. Okay. So you should feel, despite gravity's working at you, that you're just positioning the knees in such a way that they're balanced. They're not going to fall either inwards or outwards. It's just at that equilibrium point between the two. But you feel the weight of gravity definitely working away. And if gravity were to be angled slightly differently, that knee would then move in one direction, would fall in one direction or the other. How is this feeling for you guys?
Feels good, feels natural.
Yeah, good, great. So this is just getting in contact then with these midsection muscles and giving them now a task or a different type of situation. You're responding to gravity, but they are not clenching. They're not holding on for dear life. Yeah, you feel that they want to be doing things, huh? Like it's maybe.
Yeah, but they're not.
Exactly.
They're
yes.
How did that happen? What did you do with my body?
You didn't say to me, are my legs gonna fall off?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. And you know, one thing that I also say always, you know, the body, it does what it does for good reasons, but we just have to change a little bit the reasons that it's responding to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Alrighty. Great. You guys are great. We're gonna up the challenge now. And we're gonna move on then to exercise 2, where we're going to keep the knees up. But this time we're gonna bring the feet back in now to parallel and to hip width apart. And what we're gonna do now is we're going to do also something pretty weird. We're gonna make contact with the balls of the feet and we're gonna step in a way, and I call it touching with the feet, not pressing. And what do I mean by that? This is strange. I have an image that, just bear with me a little bit. It's of the hand, of being the foot like the hand. And if we imagine that we're touching through the hand, we're reaching through the hand to touch something, and that this part of the hand, this is the equivalent of the balls of the feet, right? So the base joints, but on the palm of the hand. And we're going to be reaching through the foot now as if it's the hand, and we're going to be touching through that part of the hands onto the floor. That's what I mean by making contact through the balls of the feet. It's touching through this area. Exactly. And so we're this part of the foot that we're going to be touching through, and this part, so underneath the big toe also. And so everybody's anatomy is different. It might be that when you reach through your feet, that the balls of the feet don't even touch the ground. That's the case with me. I have really short legs, unfortunately. But you know, like with the hand, how it can touch through the air and still be reaching through in seeking sensation and bringing in sensation through the air. We can do that also through the feet. So we're going to see what that feels like to start touching with the balls of the feet. And touching, not pressing, touching. So it's the balls of the feet. There are a couple of things that we should note. That the heels should stay on the ground. They shouldn't be pressed into the ground, but they're there. So one sign of us pressing with the balls of the feet rather than touching would be if the heels start coming off, for instance. The ankles should be also not squeezed or feeling stiff. So we want for that ankle joint to be feeling open. And also the midsection muscles should not be clenching. They shouldn't be activating more. That's also a sign of pressing rather than touching. And eventually, if it's possible to get past this, the rock and the hard place of the ankles clenching and the midsection wanting to clench, if these are able to stay open and we're able to really feel that sense of touch through the balls of the feet, it can be that you start to feel a bit of opening through the upper body even, and relaxation through the lower back that allows for that to transmit up. How is that feeling for you guys?
It's good.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear any kind of feedback responses. Are you able to do this without the thighs wanting to clench, for instance? Do the ankles feel like they want to get in there?
I can tell you, Julia. So initially I felt like I wasn't over to the big toe part of my, and so I felt like my knee wanted to roll me over there.
Right.
But imagining that you would say, no, just let it happen because the baby doesn't know how to make that happen. Yeah. I did find that things just opened up and I kept being aware. And then all of a sudden it did touch. And then I felt different tension in my midsection.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And then I would just feel pressures in my elbow. And then it went to the back of my neck and then it left.
Nice.
That was odd. But I love it.
Yay! Yay! These three exercises, I mean, they're really, really simple, but they are exercises that over the years I have come back to time and again. And I don't know, this is so unscientific. I've been doing 1 year of PhD studies, and it's sometimes difficult to switch back and forth between the scientific way of talking about things and me with my musician's perspective. This is my musician's hat on. I mean, it was revolutionary for me. I had constant neck and upper back tension, and it took a while of doing this and to discover layer by layer. Okay, I'm squeezing through the ankles. I can let go in this place and that. I can feel more bit by bit. It's like peeling away layers of an onion, and the pain's gone. The tension, and there's just so much more ability in feeling things and allowing the body to respond with the reflexes and with the senses to actually feel so much more at ease, and just as a baseline. Yeah. So that's my own personal experience. Chris, are you still awake? All righty. I'm going to move on because I'm sure I'm in time trouble. Hi, Chris.
Hi. That was really nice just to lay down.
Yeah, I know. It's a great excuse for giving this to our bodies. It's like giving our bodies a present that we just deny it every day, right? Like to do nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, great. What time am I at? How much time do I have? Oh, okay.
Yeah, 3:12.
Yeah, it's 18 minutes. I want to also still run through some of these fine motor exercises with you guys. So I'm gonna move on now. Now we're sitting up again. We can't let's still just take a little bit of time we don't want to be dizzy and sitting up. And can feel, how does a body respond? Feel the feet. Is there any kind of extra balance that's coming there? And how does the midsection feel? Is that able to still stay open and yeah, not clench just as a response to us sitting up again.
Mm.
And now we're going to see if we can build on this. So this is in my performance skills class. I've been spending the first half with those exercises on the floor. The second half is then with these fine motor exercises. I'm going to introduce ones that are away from the instrument today for obvious reasons. And then, but with my class, I then slowly build things up towards instrument. I'm going to have hopefully time for one last exercise that's kind of a bridge towards instruments. And with these exercises, they all have in common that we're going to be seeing about increasing the use of fingertip touch and the effect of that. I keep trying to move the picture of everybody. Such the effect of that on improving fine motor control and keeping the proximal motor muscle contraction levels low. So, and you guys all know what I mean when I say proximal muscles, right? Yeah. Okay. And both things are, of course, great goals to have in playing an instrument. So exercise number 1, you guys are all seated, I think, at a table, which is perfect. Is that right? Right. So the equipment required is a tabletop and our fingers. And what we're going to do after sitting at the table, we're going to bring our fingertips and the pads of our fingers over the tabletop, just about a centimeter over the tabletop with the fingers long. Not stretched out, but just long. And what we're then going to do is we're going to take the index finger. I'm actually doing my kind of look, and I can manipulate the computer with the right hand. We're going to lower just the index finger pad to lightly touch the tabletop and then release back to the starting position. That's it. Seems really simple, but there are a couple of things that we're going to try to avoid while we do this. The first is contracting or moving any other muscles during this motion, and including and especially including the thumb. So we don't want to have the other fingers contracting in order to produce that motion. So not that, again, not pressing, but rather touching. We want to see if we can do this motion without any accelerations or jerks in the motions. Can it be a smooth motion down to touch the table? We don't want to bounce, so we're not going to hurl our fingertip to the table, but we're going to be bringing it down, no bouncing off the table. But when we contact the table, we're not going to press. So see if we can just touch it exactly to the surface of the table and then release and let it go again. And it's going to look kind of, I was playing with my PowerPoints today, so forgive me. This was my crude representation of that. And the goal is then that we can have that smooth, precise motion of that individual finger without any extra muscle activity or strain, either at the base of that finger, we're not pushing it down, it's just going to be brought down from the tip, or with any of the adjacent fingers. So it's great for finger independence. It's great for control of the velocity, of the pressure, of the direction, and of each finger individually. And then we can eventually try this with each finger.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. Are you moving from your MPC joint, or you allow the dip and pip joints to move? So basically you're moving from your MPC up and down.
Moving from that, yes, from the MPC. Okay. But you don't want the muscles of the MPC around the MPC to be triggering it or contracting in order to produce the motion. So it's not magic. I mean, of course, the muscles are going to be involved, but you don't want a kind of spike in muscle contraction here. And then you can go on to try the other fingers. And I've taught this for my students, they all hate it. You can get totally obsessed with it. You know, and in terms of, you know, finger enslavement, there are certain fingers, of course, that are going to move with where the adjacent fingers will be moving. So, you know, to move the fourth finger, well, actually for this one, I think the fourth finger can move without the adjacent fingers moving. Yeah, for some of the other ones, maybe not. But I'm going to move on. We are going to come back to this one. This one is going to be our kind of baseline test that we're going to.
Julia, before we move on, I have a quick question.
Yes.
So I'm doing okay, except in my shoulders.
Eh,
So I focused on my feet.
you're perfect. Exactly what I tell- exactly that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, of course, you know, there are a series of exercises that we've not had the time to do today, but it's all based on that. It's based on you have the feet as support and a source of activation. And to see from that, you can even start. Okay, I'm gonna jump around since you guys are such an advanced audience. So you can start off just sitting. You feel your feet. You can start with your fingers at your lap, and see, can you now actually reach out, following the touch of your fingertip, and reach out towards a tabletop from your fingertip. So not from your shoulder lifting, but from curious fingers, like a cat. And see what that does to your shoulder.
It makes my head heavy.
Yeah. Yeah? You mean like the information, the processing of this?
No, right here.
Oh, I see. Yeah. There I would do then more of these exercises on the floor, where this should hopefully start coming free. Probably when the midsection comes more free, then that you'll notice more there also.
Okay.
I'm going to give my email address at the end. Please, everybody, contact me if you want to go through any of these, you know, in more detail. I would love it. Yeah. All right. Time. Exercise number 2. So we're going to now do something very complicated. Namely, we're going to hold one hand up in the air, and we're going to stroke one fingertip along the thumb. So we can start with the index finger. And just back into the base and then back out to the tip. Seems very easy. There are a couple of goals. What we want to avoid is that whatever finger or thumb is being stroked, that it's contracting. It's not going to help. It's going to be utterly passive, and only the finger that is doing the stroking is going to move. And of course, at the same time, we want for that motion to be smooth. So we don't want any accelerations, any jerkiness in the motion, no hard pressure. Yeah, I notice it. I can say for myself, I notice it, and I notice that my thumb, like the base of the thumb, it contracts, and it causes then a kind of jerkiness in the motion, right? But in doing this more, I think you'll start noticing slow changes. And of course, you have my wonderful PowerPoint with the animation. I just had to do that. Yeah.
It works.
Magic.
PowerPoint images move. It's so right? This is our COVID pleasure, right? This is where it's gotten us to. All righty. So, and the goal here, so we're going to see if we can increase that sensitivity in the touch of the fingers combined with the smoothness of that motion, and see how those two things are joined together. And also, actually, as a third kind of part of this equation, muscle contraction levels. So see, as the sensitivity increases, do actually muscle contraction levels, can they start to reduce? Can they start to relax? Will that increase the smoothness of the motion even? And of course, this can be done with every finger. We can try today. How does it feel if we just do it the other way around? Try to have the thumb stroking the finger, which often is a bit of a strange sensation because we're used to kind of abusing the thumb, to be honest. The thumb is like our clinch hitter. It's like there, it comes in an emergency, it grabs on, it gets us out of hairy situations, but it can also stroke. It can also be sensitive. It can also make a smooth, nuanced motion.
Julia, so in me moving my middle finger on my thumb,
Yeah.
Since I can't get the ring finger to stay put, do I shorten up the range so that it will stay put?
This is a situation of enslavement. So that's really one of these instances. The ring finger is going to move with it. That's okay. What is key to focus on is that the thumb is not helping and that the thumb is not contracting.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
So it's just this whole thing of exercise 2 is thumb tension.
One can say that actually, yeah.
Okay.
Thumb tension and increasing the sensitivity there and seeing if that's able to make some of the tension reduce. If that then feeds back into increasing the sensitivity, which feeds back into making the motion smoother.
Got
it. Yeah. And from here, we can kind of test it out by going back to exercise 1. You can see after we've done this, what does it feel like to go back and tap against the tabletop? And there are some interesting studies in kinesiology. This one is, well, I'll just say there's been a study, for instance, about fingertips being stimulated just by, vibrating sensor being placed on a fingertip. And after that's been done, that people do different types of fine motor training and that they're able to actually learn much more than people who have not received that stimulation. So this is in a certain way a kind of stimulator that we're doing to our fingertips. So you can even try, you can see, if you were to stroke just your index finger with your thumb and see what it then feels like to move that index finger against the tabletop, if it has a different kind of quality emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are you guys ready for the next one? Okay, so this is building on it with yet another step where we're going to just place a hand. I say here non-dominant hand is not important which one you start with. On a tabletop, you're going to bring your fingertip just to the back of the hand. And then you're going to stretch it with these fingertips long. You're going to bring just that index finger, like in exercise 1, down to the back of the hand, just a touch. But now we're going to make some little circular motions or back and forth motions. And we're going to try to do that without any of the call them massaging fingers, non-moving fingers, contracting also. And also not the base, the MCP joint muscles also not contracting. So we just want to see, can we move, touch, move. And again, really with paying a specific eye to the thumb, that's not getting involved. With these. And it can be very, very little movements. So we don't want for any muscles to be, we don't want for there to be real flexion, for instance. We just want to see how can we both be feeling on the side of the fingertip that's making the motion and see what the fingertip touching the hand, what it feels. And it's, again, curious. It's a little curious motion. Yeah. And see if it's possible to do it with long fingers. So none of these muscles are getting involved, just that fingertip. Yeah. So, and my wonderful PowerPoint. I couldn't figure out how to make it then move in circles, but we'll get there. We'll get there. That'll be next year's presentation. So yeah, again, the goal is to be increasing that sensitivity to touch in the fingers and to be seeing how that connects in with the independence of that finger motion. And again, we can test it. We can see after we've touched with that one fingertip against the back of the hand and go and we touch the table. How does that feel? And we can test it out. I mean, the index finger is, of course, the most sensitive generally. We could say we do a little bit of massaging with the pinky finger and then do a bit of just tap it down to the tabletop. And we can compare if you massage the pinky finger and then touch with the the index finger, do you notice a difference in the quality, in the feeling of lightness, the ease of control?
Hey,
I'm
Julie,
running through these. Yeah.
I'm totally captivated by this, but I've got to let you know there's just a few more minutes
Oh
left.
my word. Okay. Very last one that I have to show you guys just because this is the coolest animation of all. It involves you just take a pen, you have a tabletop, and you're going to try to bring the end of the pen down to the table just by releasing your thumb. So the thumb's on the top of the pen, you release the thumb, and the pen touches the tabletop. So this is now a step up. This is now working with a tool that's, of course, very similar to a drumstick. Useful for anybody, though, that is playing an instrument that you have to be holding. And getting the feeling, there are a couple of goals. So you want to see if you can allow the end of the pen to drop to rest against the tabletop just lightly. And again, no bounce, no accelerations, jerks, side-to-side swivels. And I say no, meaning that's a goal. It's often a goal that one has to slowly work towards. So like that. Ta-da!
Look at that. Wow.
Alrighty. So thank you guys so much for being so game to try out these exercises with me. Very quickly, takeaways. I think that it's important that we reframe musicians' bodies and how we approach them to be addressing health and the need, the focus of musicians to optimize performance. We have to address them together. Musicians are never going to respond to any treatment that tells them stop playing, play in a way that, like, don't go for it, right? So we need to find ways of framing the body and what we're doing at the instrument in a way that is able to bring the two together. And I think it's key to be looking beyond muscles and joints and see the body and start using it as this intelligent sensory and reflexive network that it is. And I call it coming to our senses. I think Dispokinesis is a good starting point. So, I'll say again, this bottom up, outside in. And in the future, my goals would be to, well, what my plans are to be, hopefully, when my studies are over, right, I want to be giving more workshops, doing more outreach, getting just the option of approaching pedagogy, treatment, performance in this type of way that I think is much more positive and actually much more intelligent and interesting. Get the word out there. And I would love to hear of all options for collaborations, other people that are interested in this area. I'm new to really trying to tackle this head on. So all thoughts for potential future collaborations, I would love to hear about. And of course, I'm going to go on with my research. I do think that this is a really key research area to be opening up, not only for musicians' health, but I think in the ability to, well, as my advisor was saying, the understanding of motion, how it works, and how the senses connect to motion. We're in the Stone Ages here. And I think if researchers had this knowledge of the complexity of what musicians are doing and this kind of window in to be talking then about that sensory movement network by studying musicians, I think that we could really be onto something.
We have a few, we have the, I think the next session is at 3:45, the business thing, right? So we have a couple of minutes.
Great.
Maybe you could take your slideshow now so we can see each other a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to just give my email address in case you guys don't have it. But let me end the show and stop sharing, or I can just stop sharing and that's easier. Great.
Wonderful. I'm fascinated, Julie. I wasn't quite sure where you were coming from earlier when you said that my trumpet presentation is connected to this, and now I can see why for sure. Yeah. And so two things that I'm thinking of, I guess theoretically, what would this do for a musician? And it seems to me as though you're allowing the body to become more attuned to the somatosensory system throughput. right? So you're creating, you know, and you could maybe even go beyond just the mechanoreceptors that you're activating when everything else is quiet, but even ramp it up to above 60 hertz to get like a pacinian corpuscle activated or something like that. So you get this neurologic throughput that you're paying attention to, which makes you more sensitive to the press of the string.
Yes.
So the biomechanical loading would change. Is that the theory behind a lot of this?
Absolutely. So this is essentially, you've essentially stated much better than I've been able to what my whole PhD is going to be about.
Perfect. Yeah, and you know, and in the transfer of that, I'm thinking, you know, because a lot of brass players, you know, their dysfunction comes from just like a cellist pushing their string down or a piano player pushing their key down too hard.
Yes.
You know, we don't need that extra force. And if we're more sensitive to this thing that you're getting us focused on,
Yes.
so I'm thinking, I'm going like, you know, instead of this, or in addition to that, you know, just, you know, understanding or getting in touch with the and then these parts of the body that have higher densities of these somatosensory.
The lips and the fingertips. I mean, these are the most sensitive, most responsive parts of our body. And it's a whole intelligent network.
Yes.
We actually pound into oblivion by just applying pressure.
Right. So it's biomechanics. It's a way to reduce the biomechanical forces in playing.
Absolutely. So in my class, I had a horn player, I had 2 trumpet players and a trombonist. And I built up also with a whole progression of exercises for just feeling things in the lips and seeing if they could change their embouchure in different ways, just through feeling through the lips.
I would say change the compressive forces.
That also is key. Yeah. But often these things just have not been addressed because it's all seen as a question of force and more force, less force, more force, right?
Right.
Rather than, yeah.
Can I just add that it also adds to like somehow the expressivity. So if you want to play forte, you want to play appassionato, you immediately instinctively respond with force, but very often it's like loosening up, allowing like more air resonate in the oral facial cavities, actually produce a bigger sound than actually, but this kind of like, I need to give more force from my body to create that so sound, to break that connection between movement and expressivity is also like, I feel it's very much key, because you're not going to produce a bigger sound just like you work more. It's on the contrary, sometimes it's quite counterproductive to have these like huge forces going on.
That's right. We end up closing things off, and closing off actually the things that are the resonating bodies or are the vibrating bodies or are the sound production areas. So the breath, or the contact with the string.
Yeah, and it's very easy to feel that in the body when you like want to play like this and you start like tensing up everything, and just like to understand that this is not really how it works in practice and teaching that.
But the problem with the dialectic, if everything is focused around force, more force, less force, if you're going to ask a musician to try to get more results, get more expressivity, get a larger volume by doing less, they're never going to buy it, and it's not going to work either.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be bringing in more tools, and the tools involve that whole sensory network that's so sensitive, that's adaptable, that we can shape, and an understanding of the mechanics, what's really going on, what really is getting then the vocal cords or the lips or the instrument to vibrate more, and how to get that interface just to be aligned better.
Yeah. And very often not have like, it stops the breath very often, this like over trying, it just like closes down the airway very often.
Yes. And it's a problem if we're starting, however, from a basis of tension. If there's a basis of tension, then the ability to be able to respond, to be able to touch, to be able to feel shape, in order to adapt sound and sound production in that way through that whole network is often closed off. So, we start from a base of attention, and then all we're able to do is go up tension, down tension. We can't be adaptable.
I think that was a really great presentation. I really, really appreciated that. Just bringing that neuromuscular awareness to the musicians, I think, is great. It had a lot of resonance with Feldenkrais body awareness, and I think it's a way to bring it to the music, to the musician population.
Yeah.
So I remember having a similar experience with kind of reformatting how we different dance postures and movements, and I think that is something that is often missed, and then the challenge is often getting it into the schools and getting more people aware about it. That's really where
Yes.
because I know that if I found that stuff out earlier, I probably would have preferred. I probably wouldn't be here right now. I hopefully be on stage.
Welcome to the club.
I know, huh? Right? That's just the question, you know, how do we, well, I mean, it's going in both directions, how to delve in and get more information about this, keep doing, you know, good research, understanding the body more, understanding instrumental playing more. This is, of course, not to address the whole psychological realm of what happens under stress, how we handle it, how the body responds. I also have my theories or my curiosity, let's say, about how, you know, could touch and increasing the sense of touch and our contact with the actual sound production vehicles help also under situations of stress. So rather than stress balls that we only squeeze, you know, things that we're touching and that we're noticing actually, which could help keep us more in the moment also.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap it up. And Julia, thank you very much. It was such a pleasure to meet you today. We really appreciate the session. I got a lot more out of this than I was expecting, and my brain is going a mile a minute here thinking about all. I hope to hear more from you, and hopefully maybe meet you next year in person. So thank you for everybody for attending. And,
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julia.
All righty, bye for now, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Very much.
Thanks.